Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks for agreeing to meet on a Monday. I know this is sort of out of our normal sequence, but I think this worked out pretty well to get everyone together. So our first order of business is going to be just to remind you on housekeeping, if you could raise your hand when you want to speak. I think we'll have a pretty participative meeting for the committee members this evening, just because we're going to be kind of setting the stage for what we're going to accomplish in 2024. So we'll try to just put up our hands when we're going to talk, and I will jot down your ideas. Speaking of jotting things down, I was wondering if I could ask Anne Sussman to take minutes, if you would, and they do not need to be complicated minutes. They just have to sort of like state, in bullet form what we talked about. And as I'm going to also be taking a few notes, I can certainly fill in the blanks and anything that you don't capture. Does that work out okay?
I will take very concise minutes because that's
perfect.
There are many different ways to do it, but it'll be very concise. And
yes.
Okay. And then I know you're an excellent editor, so you can fill it in if that's okay.
Yeah, that works great. That works
because
great.
I do have a number of deadlines and it's a little crazy right now. But anyway, it's okay.
Yeah, you could just send me some notes. I mean, Barbara did that the other day on minutes that I still owe, and it's just super helpful because it gives me a structure and then I can fill in some blanks. So great. Okay, awesome. And then we have Anna. So we have everybody here from the committee. No, that's okay. That's okay. We're glad to have you. We were just talking about Anne is going to be taking some minutes for us. And I think we should go over the minutes from our November 16th meeting, which was the last meeting of this committee. So we can just get those edited / approved, and then we can have the town post them. So I know, Barbara, I have a copy of them, but you might have the most recent copy. Do you want me to throw my copy up, or would you like to share your screen and share your copy?
I think the only change was a spelling change.
Okay.
I can do it either way.
Okay, well, let me, if I've got them up, then I can probably just, let's see, grab them here from my WCAC minutes folder. Here we go. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so thank you to Barbara for putting together these minutes. And I think our spelling change was related to possibly Linda's last name. Let me think about this. I don't even see Linda in here though. So wait, actually, Linda, you were not at this meeting, now I recall. So there would not be your name spelled out because you were not present at this. So Barbara, do you recall what spelling issue?
No, I'm looking at it too.
Okay.
It was a missing letter somewhere or an incorrect letter. Then you had a question about, in my notes, I had said that Patrick said he really began working on the project. We weren't clear, but in 2010, you thought that was early. That's what I had in my notes.
Yeah.
I'm happy to check that in with him, but somebody's going to have to give me his contact information. Whatever it was that you asked me to change, I did change, but no, I can't remember what it is just looking at it quickly either.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Maybe if I go here, right. Oh, extra comma after sober.
I misspelled, yeah, just a comma, and Joe's name was actually last name not spelled correctly, so I changed that as well.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I guess I had a question about, like, when Patrick said that the project at 13B Ave, which is kind of associated with the Brookside project had begun in 2010, I was like, wow, that sounds like an awful long time ago. But maybe some folks who've lived in Concord for longer recall the, process that was happening maybe prior to Brookside that also entailed 13B. I think if,
I
go
think
ahead.
I changed the sentence to read more that it reflected inclusion of the Brookside, that in other words, they either acquired the land then, that it was originally all part of one project, not just that thinking about what should go on 13B. That's what
Yeah.
I'm talking about, right? Not 166, started in 2010. So I made it a little bit broader.
Okay. So maybe we'll say the project plans for Brookside Square and 13B Ave began in 2010. Does that sound about right?
That's what I had in my notes.
Okay. I think that's good. And then Joe Soberg, the extra comma. And is this the correct spelling of Joe's last name, Soberg, or is it U-B-E-R-G? We've got Joe himself to help correct. So thank you. Good. Okay. All right. So we will go ahead and vote on approving this set of minutes. I'm assuming everyone's had a chance to take a look at these. Maybe I should just kind of show them a bit more so that we can all read these. Crank this up a little bit. Okay. So that November meeting, you guys might remember, we had Patrick Cleary in talking about his new plans for 13B, and Barbara has documented here what they will entail. Talked about community space within the building. Talked about clean energy improvements, mural, street parking.
Can you scroll back up for just
Oh,
a minute?
sure. Yeah.
I thought that parking discussion was a little nuanced, and I felt that Patrick left the meeting a little confused as to like what the guidance was there, and it might have just been the way that the response to him was worded. But yeah, it wasn't clear to me. They're like, if we were saying, and I'm not sure we can resolve this, but if we were saying, he could request parking relief according to his plan, or if he needed to change his plan or what. And I felt like that was ambiguous.
Okay.
I totally agree with you, John. I don't mean to step in here, but I think one of the problems in looking at other cultural districts, they set up parking plans for the whole cultural district. Whereas in West Concord, it's kind of like one-off, and the parking's very confused. In fact, it's really interesting on the Facebook page for Bradford Mill, where I have my studio, the biggest complaint is people don't know where to park.
Really? Oh my gosh, there's so much parking over there.
People are really confused about if it's legal. They don't quite know. It's not clear. Whereas when you go to Rockport, it's really clear. And so we've really never done, ironically, most of West Concord Cultural District is parking. But because the planning, handles each, excuse me, each building like it's on its own little island, we don't put everything together like we need to. And I think in a way,
So Anne, we're gonna get to that later in our discussion
but
today.
in a way, what John is saying, it is very ambiguous. And maybe, if we were in Rockport, it would have been solved.
So let's
It's a real
table that for a
problem.
sec, because we are going to talk about that later, like what we can proactively do to try to tackle some of these pervasive issues that keep coming up. We want to be, maybe spend some resources, get a grant or something like that to do some evaluations that then can help us as we are counseling these developers and as we're trying to sort through these issues for ourselves. But I think what I remember happening during that meeting is that Elizabeth said that that Patrick could not count spaces on the street that were in front of his property as ones that would serve the residents and any commercial use of that building. I think she said that that was not something that he could include in the math that he was doing. I don't know. Does anyone else remember that, or
Yes,
are we
yep,
kind of fuzzy
absolutely.
on that? Okay.
Yep. I think if you look up under the comments about what Patrick presented,
Mm-hmm.
the
6 parking spaces. Yep.
Elizabeth clarified that Concord's current parking bylaw requires the plans meet current parking requirements, and that, yeah, he won't be able to do it.
Okay.
That he recognized he'd have to abide by whatever Concord's current bylaws require.
But that's the problem though, guys. We have to say they're not up to date. And even now, I mean, I try to bike every day, even in the snow, and it's like, it's not safe. It's not coherent. It doesn't work. And so to have each developer try to solve it as his own little pod, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So
And so I think
we
that
have
we
to
do
reference in
we
this,
need a
that we need to do a
holistic.
parking study and make it
Yes.
coherent and look at it as a whole neighborhood, not a one-off. And that's why this isn't going to work.
Okay, but so for the purposes of these minutes, I think we agree that Patrick was given the advice he couldn't take those 6 spaces in front of 13B and include them in his parking math, and he was going to need to use whatever the zoning guided him to do, and he's probably going to seek relief from that. But I think
So
he
we should mention
hopefully has
the
some
zoning
clarity.
is out of date with the need for walkability.
But Ann, we're talking about the minutes here.
Yeah. We
Yeah,
can't. I mean,
right. I get it. I get what you're saying, guys, but
yeah, I know it's
but
frustrating.
maybe we could talk
but
about
this
it
is for the
today, because if we
minutes.
we keep tripping
Yep.
over ourselves, and we're going
Right.
to keep tripping over ourselves. It's not,
Okay,
it's
yeah.
not working, guys.
Okay, we are going to talk about it today. So, but this is the minutes, and I think what we just need to do is hopefully agree that this characterizes and documents what was discussed during that meeting, that Patrick was given the guidance that the spaces in front of 13B could not be included in his math, and that he needed to use the zoning guidelines to plan his building. Okay.
So I have my hand up, but I didn't remember it that specifically. I remembered she pushed back on his like ask, but I don't remember, and I guess we have the recording, but I don't remember if she specifically said you can't count the spots in front of the building. That's important because I think he was making an argument that there is precedent that others had on their buildings. So if we don't know that, or if we don't have that in the recording, we shouldn't change the minutes.
Okay, so Anna, do you have something to add to the conversation?
I was going to say that I also didn't remember it as that black and white that Elizabeth said you can't do it. I just remember that she questioned it. And then I have driving past it every day. I've noticed that by 5 o'clock, those spots along there are empty. So if we're not sure, I think we should double check, because it might not be a completely outrageous suggestion. And the other thing I wanted to ask people, just really basic, is with all the flooding, the podium parking that we're suggesting for these various buildings, is that lower than ground level, or is it start at ground level?
I believe it starts at ground level, but
Okay,
maybe it varies building by building, to be honest. So I
okay.
think that's a really
Because
good
if it's
point.
below ground level, it's not a good suggestion.
No, it's not below ground level. It is at ground level,
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
great.
but it's hidden. So you can't tell from when you're walking by, it won't look like a parking lot, which is
Right.
really good.
So what do you all think about these minutes? Should we vote on them next time after we have a chance to go back and use the recording to get 100% clarity on what the parking guidance was?
I actually think, one second,
We have to.
look at that. I actually think, yeah, I think this is a good example of like, we should listen to the recording again, because I remember feeling confused by that.
Okay. That sounds good. So I'm wondering, Barbara, would you be okay going back to listen to that piece in the recording? Hopefully it's only like a couple of minutes or something,
Yep,
and
sure.
updating these and then circulating them, and we can vote on them next time.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so let's see. I have my notes on our different agenda items here. Okay, so the next topic that we have to talk about is membership. Linda was voted in as our latest full member, so congratulations, Linda. We're excited that you're here. And so this is the lineup of members that we have, and we do still have a couple of vacancies for associate members. And just so you all know how these associate members work is they roll into the full member positions as the full member positions reach the conclusion of their term. So any person who's considering becoming a member today would occupy an associate member slot for a few months or so and then roll into a full member, excuse me, role. So with that, I wanted to see if Gregory Dorothy is here because I think uh, he had submitted a volunteer card, and I spoke to him on the phone, and he wanted to come to our meeting and hear what this was all about. So I was thinking that maybe Gregory could introduce himself during this meeting and let us know a little bit about him and how he would add to the committee.
Absolutely. Thank you, Suzanne. I want to thank you first for letting me come to the meeting and be a part of this. I really appreciate it. And I have a long history in construction and working in the field for a very long time. My wife grew up in town. Just to introduce myself a little bit, I live on Border Road, not too far from Susan. And one of the things that I really want to do was, and I was telling Susan about this, is just I was looking for a committee to join, and I wanted to really focus on, trying to make Concord a better place. My wife's a townie. My kids are going to the school systems. I hope that in the future they'll be moving back to, and they'll be the next generation that kind of continues. I grew up on the North Shore. We moved here back in 2010, bought our first house in 2010 here on Main Street. And then we moved to Border Road a year and a half ago. And West Concord means something to us because that's where my wife grew up and that's where we are now. And, I just want to be able to give back to the town, be a part of things in some way and maybe, help out, so.
Call you Gregory or Greg? What do you prefer?
Greg is fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Linda, would you like to ask a question?
Oh, sorry, just a clarification on my term. The notification that I got from the town was that my term actually expires this year. So just for your notes, and I think it's because I'm filling maybe so that's all.
Yeah. So to not make it too complicated for everyone thinking about how long their term lasts, there are these sort of staggered term, I guess, durations. And so you roll into a term that has a set duration. And once the end of it is reached, then you continue serving your 3 years, utilizing another term that begins at a different time. So we can sort it out, but I just wanted to let you know that everybody who signs up for the committee, you are automatically, invited to stay for 3 years. And we just have to kind of figure out these little quirks of those partial terms and whatnot. But you're right, Linda. Yeah, it's kind of strange.
I know they can be very official about these things, so that's why I want to point it out. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. I got a note from, the planning board, et cetera, kind of like outlining how this works. I was like, wow, this is higher level math and I'm going to have to, take some time and get out my calculator to figure it out. But anyway, so yeah, that is the way the terms work. So, well, thanks, Greg, for introducing yourself. And I guess it would be expeditious if the group, should we not have any other questions, if we could just kind of take a vote to see if we want to advance Greg to the next stage, which is talking to the planning board about his candidacy on our committee. And so, yes, if we could, we're gonna need to like have everybody state what their vote is, but so let's call a vote, and I'll just name everybody who's on the committee, and you can say yes or no related to your vote of advancing Greg. So Barbara, what is your vote?
Yes.
Anne, what is your vote?
Yes.
Don, what's your vote?
Yes.
Great. Nicole, what's your vote?
Yes.
Awesome. Anna, what's your vote?
Yes, and I also did have a question, but
Oh, sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm making you vote prior to asking your question.
that's okay. It won't change, but
Okay.
I wondered what kind of construction Greg was in.
Oh, so a little bit of my construction background. I started mainly in residential, and I was doing, I focused on, in the beginning, I started my own paint company right out of college, and then as soon as my dad retired, I kind of took over his construction business, and we were doing a lot of home remodels and stuff like that. And then I moved from there into the startup world, where I did a lot of I did a lot of like indirect work with construction, mainly a lot of commercial at that point. And then I moved into working for another company doing glass, and I was doing like partition walls and just the high-end finishes you find in commercial work. So I kind of have, I've dabbled in both sides. 2007, I saw the writing on the wall, and I sold my company before everything kind of hit the fan. So, and I was able to get out before everything kind of went south. But, and then I've just recently, in the last 2 years, I was hired up by European Architectural Suppliers, their VP of operations. They were in Acton before, and they do high-end European windows. Triple pane, really solid. We've actually done a lot of jobs here in Concord, like over in Nut Meadow, as well as coupled on Hubbard. And, we work in the high end towns and Maine coast and, the Cape and the islands and all that stuff. So, and that's where I'm at now with my career, I guess.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so it seems like we have voted Greg forward to discuss his candidacy with the planning board. And just so you know, Greg, what will happen is the chair of the planning board will give you a call to talk about this or meet up with you in person. And then they will also vote on you at a planning board meeting at which you need to be present. So
Okay.
I will kind of make sure that all of this is moving along expeditiously. And then, last but not least, you will get voted on at the select board, but you don't have to be at that meeting in person or virtually. They just usually go through a list of folks who are joining committees and vote them in. So,
Okay.
yeah, that is what will happen. Linda, did I miss anything? Or Anna, I think like you guys have been through this process most recently, so you might be able to say if
Yeah,
there are
that's the way it happened for me. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, same for me as well.
Awesome. Okay.
And yes, I don't think I've had you didn't call my name for voting, but I'm voting yes officially.
Oh, sorry. Okay, thank you. All right, so that was unanimous, and I will stop forgetting committee members. All right, so other candidates for our committee, like if you all know folks socially or otherwise you think would be great for this committee, feel free to ask them to fill out an electronic volunteer card with the town. That's how you kind of become part of this intake process. And we are always looking for new members. And you can see we do have another associate slot open as well after Greg joins. Okay, so moving to the next agenda item, we had, during the end of last year, been talking about these two development projects, 166 Com Ave, also known as the E&S gas station, and also 13B Com Ave, which is the triangle of grassy space kind of adjacent to Reasons to Be Cheerful and in front of Potager Soap. So I don't actually have any big updates on these projects. I'm not sure if anyone else on the committee has been kind of engaged with either of them since last year.
Well, I think we need to check in because remember he was having trouble financing it for 13B. remember? The
Right.
developer was having trouble financing because of supply chain issues, and because interest rates went up, they're now going down again. It looks a little bit more hopeful now, rising costs. So we need to figure out if this project is real or not. We need to figure out, we can check in with the town, is the project real or not? And then the 166 Common project, I think we wrote a really good piece, and did that get delivered? That was a little confused.
Yeah. Yeah, I do have like a little bit of just an administrative update on that, but John, why don't you go ahead and make your point, and then I can fill in if what you're saying is not what I had in mind.
Yeah, no, I think the thing that we can do to help 13B or address 13B the best is probably just to clarify anything that's ambiguous on that parking question. Or facilitate the clarification of that, because I think he left confused by that. And that drives a lot of the economics of the project.
Okay. Yeah, and I think he had reached out to ask for the recording of the meeting as well, so maybe he also had a chance to listen to it and got some of his questions answered. But yeah, we can certainly try to clarify that once we listen to it on the Minuteman Media Network. We can even reach out to the town to make sure that we're clear. Yeah. On 166 I think it seems like that project is going before the Zoning Board of Appeals on possibly the 8th of February. That's what I was seeing as I kind of looked at it on the town government web pages. So that's the only thing I know about that, and possibly it would be at the planning board before then. But those are the updates that I would have on 166. I haven't.
Well, we wrote this really long letter that I thought was really inclusive. Did it get delivered?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So it's
And is
listed
it on
in
the
current
town?
documents.
Is it on the town? Is it in the town files that everybody can access?
Yes. Yeah. So if you go on the ZBA current documents and you scroll to where the 166 address is, it shows all of these different documents. In addition, it shows that the developer has revised their plan again. So there's some dates in the early part of January 2024 where it shows new designs and responses to concerns and stuff like that. So I think it would be great
Well,
for
so
all of us to look at
should
that.
one of us attend the committee meeting, the ZBA meeting?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, folks are totally welcome to attend that. And even if the project goes to the planning board before the ZBA, I would encourage attendance there.
Because it was pretty confusing. It was very confusing, the presentation. I mean, I have worked in other towns. I am a licensed architect. They wouldn't even be allowed to present that in other towns like Acton or Newton. And the map and the plans they showed weren't even coherent. They didn't even show the streets that would be really impacted. It just wouldn't be allowed.
Jump in.
So it's like, I think we're at a huge disadvantage.
You need to remember to raise your hand when you're speaking, but also I want to say the developer has completely overhauled their plans. So you will look at what they have posted on the town website, and it does not, it is very different from what they had presented to our committee, because they're allowed to revise. They are able to revise in response to the input that they get.
But hold on, but we haven't seen wait a minute, so we haven't seen the plans they're presenting to the ZBA.
And
that's crazy.
That's okay. That's okay. I mean,
How is that legally okay when we're in West Concord, we're the advisory committee, we made it, but we never even saw what the response was.
You can look at the response online. So
and did it go up?
I don't think they'll be coming back through our committee because we've given them advice twice. And I would say their plans reflect some of the advice that we gave. And so that's great to see. I have not had a chance to dig into it, in detail, but you all should take a look. It's on the ZBA page and it's listed under current documents. You can see all of the dates like 1/4, 2024. They have some new documents that have been presented. Linda, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess just to the earlier point, maybe we don't want to discuss this now, but to the idea of like looking at things holistically, if we don't know what's going on there, then we can't accurately assess the neighboring, 13B, right? So
yeah,
I totally agree that we need to have like a more comprehensive way, our committee, of kind of looking at these projects that, you know, especially when they were butting each other. So I don't know, maybe, you know, we can put that in the parking lot for discussion about priorities for our committee for 2024, but it feels like, you know, these one-off conversations are not really, or could be improved if we, you know, so that we can look at things in a more holistic manner.
Yeah.
However, whatever was decided about how they're doing their parking and dealing with the crosswalks and all the crazy stuff we were talking about with safety, you know, how do you then put something else right next to it with all those units and have a cohesive, you know, center, which is obviously we want a safe and welcoming, all the things that are on our principal guidelines.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So we need to get a handle on, hold on just one second, Ann. We need to get a handle on how this project is proceeding through the other, you know, points where they're going to need to pitch what they're doing so that we can be a part of that conversation, either by attending another committee's meeting or if somehow it comes back to us, which I don't think it will, but I think planning board and ZBA are the ones who will be listening now to the plan. So, okay, Anne, go ahead.
It's not a coherent process. This wouldn't happen in other towns, and it's going to hurt all of us. And they're on a street where kids have almost been killed the past 10 months. We can't design this way. We have to see the updates so we can approve 13B, exactly what Linda said. And the way they've just kind of thrown us under the bus, we don't know, we haven't seen them. When did they go up? January 5th?
Well, they must have gone up, you know, sometime in the first week of January, based on the dates that I'm seeing on the list of documents.
This is not the way to handle our committee, I don't think.
All right, well, so I think what we should do is everyone take a look at what's there on that ZBA list of documents, and we're scheduled to have another meeting the first Wednesday of February, and we can, during that meeting, talk about what we've seen and think about, you know, knowing what's next, which is likely planning board or ZBA, what would we like to do in order to be a part of that conversation? Does that make sense to everybody? Because we do have another meeting coming up in, you know, a couple of weeks. It's going to be short since we're so late this month. Okay. All right, so that is the development projects that were on the radar last time we met. Let's see. So the next thing that I want to talk about is things that we should do for 2024. I hear and empathize with the frustration of the group in not being able to seemingly make holistic plans for West Concord Junction. And I would propose that we try to band together with some of the other committees that have a vested interest in the junction, such as the Cultural District Committee, for West Concord Junction, Transportation Advisory Committee, and any others who are doing work adjacent to what we are thinking about for West Concord Junction, and see if we can get funding to do some sort of either a parking study or design guidelines. Our design guidelines are super old at this point. The official ones, they're like over 10 years old, I believe. A parking study is something that's come up over and over as we've been thinking through how to really like take the reins a little bit more in determining the outcome of some of these developments that are cropping up. So I guess I'd love to hear from the committee, like what your appetite is for undertaking something like that. It could be if we're able to hire a consultant that we need to meet with them frequently. We might need to do a little bit of writing ourselves. We might need to organize some additional meetings whereby community members can attend and weigh in as a consultant is talking. But I just want to see what you all think of engaging in a process like that. Linda, go ahead.
No, I think it's a great idea. And if I say that I'm going to volunteer myself, you can assign me to anything you want. The newbie can be put to work. But I had just a quick general parking question as I think about, you know, my office being in Belmont or Lexington, where I just had lunch. You know, they obviously, as you probably know, have these fairly large, you know, parking areas that support the whole town. And to that point, the parking lot that is behind Bradford, is it Bradford Mill? What is that designated for? Like that, it goes way back to Rideout. Is that something that we can, you know, put into the whole, you know, centralized planning
Well,
process here, or?
well, to answer your question, I mean, I've been at Bradford Mill 12 years now, and that is part of the whole Bradford Mill property, and that gets rented out to the town even when the town does, road construction. So it's all part of Bradford Mill, but it's an example, just like what we saw with 13B, just like we see with 166, an example where the town doesn't have a coherent parking plan. And when you actually look at the map of West Concord at that area, I think we may have 1,500 or 2,000 parking spaces. It's crazy, but it's disorganized. Each one is not planned like a coherent flow. It's not what they do in Rockport. It's not what they do in Northampton, where they want people to drive through, immediately feel at home, be able to park for free and shop. And they're getting it to work. So what I've noticed is Concord doesn't have the planning proactively like those other towns have, particularly West Concord, because Concord itself is so much under historic district, they don't need to worry about it. So Concord's never done it. So we need a real parking plan, which really, where do you park? People come to Bradford Mill and are confused, don't know where to park. It's very, very confused, and it's still very dangerous. Even though the sidewalks have been widened, which is wonderful, there's no bike lane. The speed limits are very high, and they're put in places where you can't see where they are. People don't know the speed limit there is 20 miles per hour. They can't see the signs. We need to really, with the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail opening in Sudbury, we're going to have a lot more people coming here. We need to make it safe for biking and walking, and do what they do in Copenhagen, where they put safe walkability and biking first and then cars. And they have higher longevity there, more happiness there. We need to copy that. And we are way behind. We need to do it.
Point well taken. Let's hear from a couple other members on their viewpoints, because I'd love to get a consensus about how we're going to go forward with all these great ideas. So John, go ahead, and then I'll move to Anna after that.
Well, I was just gonna say, it sounds like, so you mentioned a parking study. It sounds to me like, we did this preamble to the design guidelines, which was like, in my memory, was like sort of an update to the design guidelines in a way, but I think we could probably undertake a similar effort. I don't know if starting with a parking study is the most effective way, because it might gum us up, but what we could do is we could just open this topic with the planning board and kind of say, like, there are two vectors of this. One is pursuing a unified parking plan, and two is pursuing, or almost like lobbying for, changes to the parking requirements for new development, or for new developments. Because a lot of our discussion is centered around those two things, and it sounds like that's what, but I wouldn't want to get us hung up on a parking study as a first step, because we might just end up waiting for years for some outcome from that.
But just to add one thing, I don't mean to interrupt you. We need to update our zoning for the cultural district. It's never been updated. So it's killing the cultural district, literally. We've never changed the zoning to make walking, biking a priority, which all the other successful cultural districts have done.
All right, so I think we should definitely explore that. It seems like the Cultural District Committee, who is kind of a sibling committee to ours, is going to be a perfect one to engage in this conversation with, and there's strength in numbers, and we can hopefully, work with them towards some kind of project that would be helpful here. Anna, go ahead.
This is more a question for the group. So West Concord doesn't have an architectural review board, correct?
Yeah,
Right.
I've tried to get one, but unlike Weston, Wellesley, Acton, Boxborough, Hanover, they all have design review boards. And the reason the towns do is they save tons of money and get better design. We don't have that.
Is that a
So
planted question, by the way?
no, it's not. I mean, it just seems like the elephant in the room. Like I knew there was some history here, but and is this design guideline that we have, is that what we have instead? Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Okay.
And honestly, it's a guideline. We are not able to like legally hold the developers to it. And I think we would not be able to legally hold them to it, even if we got it updated. But an updated one that's officially done by an organization that's used to compiling these for towns would be easier to probably be more prescriptive to developers with, versus something that's 10 years old and then a thing we wrote ourselves, a few years ago. It just seems like we need to be more professional than that.
Well, then I think I would vote for that being very important, because otherwise it's just haphazard if we're able to convince, someone who comes to present once or twice that their design is completely out of sync with the town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe, and also at least my viewpoint on a little clarification on like role of the committee. So we, as far as I can tell in the documentation, we don't have like a legally binding approval of anything that goes to the planning board, but the planning board relies on us to provide perspective on West Concord's preferences and needs. And then our function, the way that we leverage that is through written points of view delivered to stakeholders, including the planning board, that they take as input. And so our design guidelines would not have a legal binding effect, but they set a precedent for a norm or a standard status quo for what we refer to when we make those kinds of recommendations.
Yeah, that is a very good point.
As it relates to the design review board, so Anne had architect from a design review board from a neighboring town present to us about the values and merits of a design review board. But I think that the thing is that we're like violently agreeing with that. The question is not whether we want or think there should be a design review board, is how, because we don't, as WCAC, have like power to enact a DRB. And we had actually said like, go do it. Yes, do it, please.
I guess I should have done it. You have to go to the select board. Have to
You're
go
an
to the
architect,
board to do it.
so,
Okay, I should get them to do it.
I
But we
think
need it,
you're-
and I can see we waste a lot of time at
Yeah.
our meetings because we don't have it.
Right. So, but my point is, we want it, but we don't have the power to do it. So if you're an architect and you want it, go to the select board and do it. I think that would be.
time.
I will show up and support you.
I don't know how
on
else to say that.
Tuesday at the
Okay, thank you, guys. I love you.
Yeah. Nicole, go ahead.
My question was before John's, but I agree with John. And my question is, how hard would it be and how long would it take to achieve an architectural review board?
In Acton, we did it really quickly, but we had a select board member propose it for it and it was done. It was done in 6
What are
months.
we waiting for?
So it's basically a select boardman that you need on your side.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and if you want us to support you in the select board process or something, I don't know if I've ever heard like disapproval of the idea or pushback.
Yeah. I will have to, if you want, what I can do on my own, I can go approach a select board. I can go to the select board meeting, I guess, and suggest it or write a note that we needed. I did try, I've never been shot down. I think the issue is, planning is always in the end about class, and so much of Concord Center is under historic district. They don't need to worry about it. And West Concord was the working class, so they never really developed those things for it, right? So that's what's going on here.
Let's see, Barbara, Barbara, you have another comment.
Yeah, my understanding from what Marcia Rasmussen used to talk when these topics came up in the past was that a lot of what we consider design review board might do is in fact the responsibility of both the planning department and the zoning board in Concord.
Yeah, but the problem is, it doesn't work.
And that maybe we should start by sitting down more with the planning board and coming to an understanding of what they do and what plans they already have on the table, both with regarding parking. I don't want to duplicate what other people are already doing. Concord has close to 70 committees and boards. I think the likelihood that they're going to want to create another one is small. And that maybe our efforts are better put to make sure that we're liaisoning better with the committees who do have responsibility for design and guidance in all of Concord, not just in West Concord. I know that I was liaison to the Trails Committee, which has been fascinating when I've gone. The problem is they meet at 8 a.m. in the morning. But other than that, there's very little that they discuss that's related to what's going on in the center of West Concord. So that we need, to really look at the other groups which have ongoing projects and make better outreach to those committees so that we're not all talking about the same thing in different aspects. Duplicating effort doesn't really get us anywhere.
Okay, so John, did you have a new comment or is your hand up from before?
Just a new comment. So it sounds like there isn't unanimous agreement, but maybe the thing to do is to open that discussion directly with the planning board or the select board.
Yeah.
What is the process and so forth.
Okay. I think that is a great idea. Anne, go ahead.
I'll just be really quick. So Barbara, Concord doesn't have any committee with the people for a design review board. Design review board, you have to be a licensed professional. I think on the new committee that just did the $110 million middle school, there was one licensed architect. That would never help in any other town I know. So design review board has licensed engineers in Massachusetts, licensed architects in Massachusetts, licensed landscape architects, licensed sustainable designers. And then the town use them because they can save a ton of money and then they talk immediately to the developers who come forward to show what the town, they live in the town, they know the town. The problem with Concord, it doesn't have these professionals, maybe one architect, they don't have the professionals together that they need. So there is
Anne,
no committee.
I have a practical question, like what if you create this board, but literally like there just aren't enough people coming forward to be able to staff it? Like what happens then? I mean, did you run into that in Acton Acton's a bigger town, so maybe it pulled from a bigger population.
I think the population of Acton is smaller, actually. No, we have plenty of licensed architects here, plenty of licensed engineers here. They're in the mill even. There are plenty. They've just never been, the town's never put it together. You want licensed people looking at it. You want someone, when you're reviewing a board, a school, you want someone who's designed, 10 people who've designed, or 3 people who've designed 10 schools to look at the plans. So Concord doesn't have that. And as a result, I'd argue that real failing for everything. And honestly, to become a licensed architect, you do have to take 3 years of schooling, 3 years of working, and pass a 9-part exam. And it is difficult to read plans because you're looking at 2D, but you have to be able to think in your head that it's 3D. It's actually complicated. And I can see in Concord that even Marcia Rasmussen, she wasn't a licensed architect. She couldn't read the plan she was approving.
Okay, so I think that I think we have a really good way forward here in that we need to explore with the planning board what would be the route for creating this design review board if we were to create one. So what I can say is, Anne, I can explore with the planning board the idea. If you would explore with the select board the idea, that would be great, just so we have both areas covered, because I think they would both.
And I actually have a little PowerPoint that I did for the town of Acton on what design review boards do and how many communities in Massachusetts have them and why they have them. And the reason they have them is they save money and time.
Yeah, so I think that'll be really powerful. And I think we can understand what the path to success here is with that, that design review board situation. But I do want to make sure that we also think in parallel about if we want to pursue some sort of study that gives us the holistic ability to, with some teeth, evaluate the developer projects that come in front of us. I'm hearing most folks say that they think doing another design guidelines creation would serve the town well. That's kind of what I was hearing, or serve West Concord well. Does anybody on the committee disagree with that or want to bring forward another perspective elevating the parking study instead of the design guidelines? Oh, here we go. let's see, Barbara, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just, not having looked at the design guidelines of 10 years ago recently, maybe we start by looking at that and figure out what are the parts of it that still really work and what are the parts that need updating and review of some kind, vis-a-vis the things that have gone on in the last 10 years in the center of the town.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to see, yeah, where we have gaps. Nicole, go ahead.
I was just, my only concern is similar to the design board is how, is it lay people who are going to be doing the design review, or is it going to be like professionals? Because I might have opinions, but my opinions might not work in reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. From what I've seen in prior projects where design guidelines were created is usually a professional consultant is hired who has expertise doing these kinds of documents for other towns. And so, you know, maybe as we're looking to say, well, who would we want to work with? We have some criteria about how many, you know, licensed folks are going to be on the consulting team, et cetera. But it would be not just, you know, someone off the street who is going to do this for us. It would be folks who have a lot of expertise in pulling these documents together. So yeah, thanks for asking that question. Okay, so let's see. I can do a little of investigation, maybe Linda, since you are also very interested in this. Together we can do some investigation with like the Metropolitan Area Planning, I think it's Council, or some of these other organizations that tend to undertake these kinds of studies, or they can maybe point us in the right direction. And then we can learn like, how do towns usually fund this? What kind of grants can you apply for? What's the expected community involvement? Do you need to create like 3 public meetings or something in order to share the plans as they're being developed? It would be helpful for us to understand.
So I have 2 contacts. One is Consulting Planners of Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
Really good at making it safe, sidewalks and parking. They really get it. And they could maybe have someplace we could get at a discount or something. Consulting Planners of Massachusetts. And then the MAPC would be also good.
Yeah.
I would start with Consulting Planners because they're really personal and they're really local. I have a contact there. I can give you his name, but that would be great because I think that's a great idea. That's a brilliant idea.
Okay, so yeah, if you could forward us that contact info and we can try and have a conversation with them and see what they're all about, that would be great. All right, so we're getting close to our 1 hour time here. Let me just take a quick look at what else we wanted to talk about. All right, so I'm going to circulate a sign up for planning board meetings. For the folks who don't remember what this is, the planning board meets every other Tuesday at 7, and generally we try to take a look at what their agenda is. If it entails something that is pertinent to West Concord, then the person who has signed up for that particular Tuesday will go to the planning board meeting and listen in and, you know, give a comment if they feel so motivated to do that. But really we want to just make sure that we're keeping an eye on planning board items that involve the West Concord Junction. So I'll circulate that sign up. And I wanted to remind folks that we also can go to other committee meetings who we think are committees that are aligned with us and that are undertaking work that's adjacent that we might want to partner on. So the West Concord Junction Cultural District Committee meets usually the first Tuesday of the month, I believe. And their next meeting is the 6th of February. So if someone wanted to attend that meeting to just hear what they have going on, they're generally planning like lots of fun cultural events in West Concord Junction and really trying to you know, increase the economic vitality as well of the town. And then Transportation Advisory Committee, I don't know when they meet, but they're another, I think, good one for us to kind of keep an eye on what they're doing and see how we can support them. And I think I recall you sent me some sort of document where they were looking for us to weigh in on it. And I can't remember what it was, but do you recall what that was that you sent over? Oh, you're on mute.
Was it Transportation Advisory?
I think it was, yeah.
Well, I can check in with them. What was their meeting on? Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I might have sent you something about their, yeah. Because I think you're absolutely right. We should collaborate with them and with the Cultural District Committee on the parking study too, because really it all connects, right?
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, Linda, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was just wondering if as a committee, since there's a lot of maybe newer members, if we've ever done like a walkthrough together of our little, town junction area so that we could just kind of share observations and thoughts as we kind of go into the 2024 planning cycle, kind of
That's brilliant.
get
Let's
on
do
the
it.
same page and share insights and observations.
Yeah,
Just a
I,
thought.
yeah, we could definitely do that. We have done it in the past in conjunction with other committees, like for instance, the Transportation Advisory Committee. So I think we could put something like that on the books for 2024 and get out there together. It would be considered an official meeting if, say more than two of us are together. So we'd put it on the agenda, well, not the agenda, but on the calendar for the town in terms of when we're meeting. But I think that would be a great idea.
Because I think we also talked about having a meeting in person.
Yes, right. And I wanted to get to that before we go too far over, but Anna, let me take your comment. Go ahead.
I just wanted to toss out one thing that I thought might be easy and fun for this year, which would be to think about a West Concord Greenway of all the natural spaces that are accessible without a car, just by foot from the center of West Concord. And maybe creating placards up around town, pointing them out to people so that they can use them more and better.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I think that maybe that would dovetail nicely with some of the things the Cultural District Committee is doing, because I know they have some different art installations that they're always looking to be putting up in various spaces, and they're generally looking for green space to be able to install those. So that's great. John, go ahead.
What was I gonna say? Oh, on the TAC, I've noticed that they like are pretty active in getting grant funding, and I think they've got a grant to do the KD Square, and somehow like we just aren't that well connected with that, and I think we should be.
Yeah, that is important.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We should do it.
All right, so let me ask this. I know we don't kind of know exactly when all these meetings are taking place, except for the Cultural District Committee one, but like if folks who have, say, an extra night during any given month to attend a meeting that's not a WCAC meeting, if you guys could raise your hand, then what we could possibly do is parse out these different opportunities so we can start getting more connected with these other committees. And if you don't have the time for it, I totally understand, but I just want to get a sense for what our capacity is to engage with other committees. Okay, so it looks like Barbara, Anna, Linda,
I could do one a month.
John could do one. Okay.
If we remind people about signing up for news and notices, you get alerted whenever these committees are meeting, and you can read what's on the agenda for each month or each meeting, in the case of planning board, a couple of times a month. And it's just a really handy reminder.
Yes, that is awesome. Yes. All right. So Nicole, I see your hand up. Do you have some capacity this year, do you think, to attend meetings, or did you want to talk about something else?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
So it sounds like a lot of people are available, and instead of us willy-nilly attending meetings, say, oh, there's this, I'll do that. Why not break it up into 2 different teams and people can tag team?
Yeah.
Whatever number of teams. And that there's also communication and follow through within each meeting to the rest of the people on our committee who might be attending those meetings. Does that make sense?
I think I'm understanding what you're saying. Do you mean like 2 people would sign up for the Transportation Advisory Committee meetings, and they could both be there to hear the information? If one can't make it, at least the other one is there to get it. That's what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I think that sounds like a good idea.
But
I mean,
it-
well, yeah, what
it's-
others think of that?
it's more
Great
work
idea. Great idea.
instead of it being willy-nilly.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's do this. We do have a meeting coming up just in a couple of weeks. If you want to take a look at when the other meetings are happening, such as TAC, maybe even ZBA sometimes, if that has things that are coming through that relate to West Concord Junction. Bruce Freeman Rail Trail tends to be somewhat pertinent to us. Public Works tends to be pertinent to us. What else? The West Concord Junction Cultural District Committee is always pertinent to us. So those are some ideas, and we can jot down next meeting, like when they meet and who can commit to being on what teams. Actually, John, let me ask a question about the Economic Vitality Committee. I think in the past you had been going to those meetings, but did you find like that those were relevant to the junction or not necessarily?
I mean, everything's kind of relevant, but yeah, I would say TAC is probably, and the WCJ's, CDC, whatever.
Yeah. The six
Those two
letters.
are probably the most relevant.
Okay. Okay, that's great. So we'll figure those out for next time and then kind of assign people to those different committees. All right, and so then the last thing I wanted to ask is about an in-person meeting. What do you all think about getting together in person, like maybe in March or something like that? Perhaps when the weather is better than it is now and we can come out of our houses and be social with each other. I was thinking that we could meet at either Harvey Wheeler or some other location that's in West Concord that also has the ability for hybrid meetings in case for some reason one of us can't make it or something. We want to make sure that everyone can be included in the meeting. But I guess if everyone could raise their hand if they think they would be available to attend a meeting in March, which would be, I think, the 6th of March, Wednesday at 7, somewhere easy to get to and with hybrid capability. Seeing some hands, looks like Barbara's got hers up. And what about you? What do you think about March, what is it, March 6th? Yep, got your hand up. Okay, great. Cool. All right, so I'm seeing all our different members with their hands up. So I will go and get us a space for March 6th, and then we can be together in person. It'll be amazing. Cool. All right, so before we wrap up, I just want to see if there are any members of the public who want to comment at all about anything that you've heard this evening. We're always interested to hear what folks think. And as usual, if you're interested in joining our committee, we are always open to more members. But anyone else go ahead who has some comments? Okay, I don't see any comments, so.
Cynthia Katz.
Oh, sorry, sorry. All right, yes, go ahead, Cynthia. Oh, Cynthia, I think you're on mute.
Okay, 20 Conant Street. Hi, thank you. I'm glad that you're going to start getting involved more with the transportation because it just amazes me that, for instance, you mentioned Kenny Dunn Square. There's a crosswalk right in front of Kenny Dunn Square, but there are no crosswalks on the street to get to the crosswalk at Kenny Dunn Square. And, you know, the town just put in all this work into Commonwealth Ave and made these great new sidewalks, but they didn't think about traffic calming and they didn't think about crosswalks and in any other places except where they were to begin with. And if they really want to promote walking, then we need crosswalks that are going to allow people to get from Ride Out, from up Lawsbrook Road and things like that. And so I really hope that that can be something that you guys get on. We've been to a lot of transportation things. I don't have a lot of hopes for anything happening fast, given that last meeting.
Thank you for weighing in on that. And I think, yes, we are pretty obsessed with crosswalks on this committee. So
Great. Thank you.
Nicole, did you have another comment? Oh, Nicole, your hand's down now. Okay. All right. So let's see. Our next meeting is going to be February 7th, which is a Wednesday at 7. So everyone mark your calendars for that. And when we have our next meeting, since we didn't get to it this time, we can decide on our whole sequence of meetings for this next year. I would say Wednesdays at 7 seem to be working for people, so it would be great to stick with that. But I want to make sure that we're not precluding folks from joining frequently by having that kind of schedule. Maybe what I should do, one more vote, and then I swear to God we can go. Could everybody just kind of raise your hand if Wednesdays at 7 p.m. still works for you for this year, and then we can put that schedule together without having to talk about it again. Okay, great. I'm saying.
I'd actually prefer, I don't know if it's possible, but an hour later, because I can't help with putting kids down from 7 if I visit 7 o'clock.
Okay.
It's always a huge fiasco every time.
Yeah. Okay, so that's interesting and good to know. Could we do one more vote and see, could people do this meeting from 8 to 9 on Wednesday evenings if they needed to? Okay. Oh, I think you put your hand up. Anna, yes. So Linda and Nicole, I'm not sure that I saw you raise your hand. I'm not trying to call you out, but do you both have conflicts with 8 o'clock?
I have the opposite problem. Then I wouldn't be available because our kids go to bed during that time. I mean, it wouldn't be impossible for me, but it wouldn't be my preference, but I could make it work.
Okay. And Barbara, what, do you also have a conflict at 8
No,
or?
I'm fine.
Okay. Okay, so what about if we did the meeting at 6 on a Wednesday night? I mean, is that too early? Does that interfere with dinner for most people? Okay.
Even 7 interferes with dinner.
Let's see. So and last question, what about if we did 7:30 to 8:30? Does that assist you, John, in your situation at all? And Linda, is that still okay for you?
That would be better for me. Yep.
Okay.
I could make that work.
Okay. So 7:30 to 8:30 is when our meetings can be going forward on Wednesday evenings. Okay, awesome. So I propose that we adjourn our meeting right now at 8:12 p.m. Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. Okay, and so I'm going to need to do a roll call vote. Barbara, should we adjourn?
Yes.
And should we adjourn?
Yes.
Linda, should we adjourn?
Yes.
I think John already seconded, but John, should we adjourn?
Yep.
Nicole, should we adjourn?
Yes, please.
And Anna, should we adjourn?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody.